been a bad week for Celtic, losing in Europe to Midtjylland, losing last night to Hearts in the first game in the Scottish Premier Division, Scottish Premiership. What's going on?
At the end of the... we're in August. So at the end of the month, they've 8 matches. They could be out of Europe. They could be out of the League Cup. And if they keep doing what they're doing, they could be out of the league. They could be out of 3 or 4 competitions. That's how bad it is. So yeah, they're at a serious, desperate position with Ange Postecoglou I said it with confidence, didn't I? In the hot seat. So I just had a quick look at it myself just to see, because obviously we know bits and pieces about it. They're all giving out about the lack of money and this and the other. But the writing's been on the wall for a few years there. But there was an interesting stat that was on one of the articles been written up. I think it was on the BBC. I'm not going to take full credit for it. That not last season, the 2019-2020 season, they did a 78% win average. So it's only one season ago. And at the moment, they have just won 50% since then. And it's the worst win percentage ratio since the 94-95 season when they came 4th behind Rangers, Motherwell and Hibs. So their average has been 68% since then for the last 26 years. So that's the position they're in for the last over 12 months of form. I know that everyone thought once they get rid of Lennon it'll make a difference, and nothing seems to have changed at the moment. Edouard's a shadow of himself, so do you cash in and try and get some money, or maybe is that why he's a shadow of himself? But it's just a bit of a calamity at the moment, and you just don't know where it's going, and you just don't. And of course, the neighbours across the road are just going from strength to strength. So that's what's making it twice as hard now. I personally think they rested on the laurels when Rangers went down to the lower leagues and just cheaped their way around, winning titles for 3 or 4. I've not much time for this triple in 3 years when the league was a foregone conclusion every year. The cup's fair enough, I'll give them that, but yeah, I think they've done it on the cheap, and they're now paying for it and paying for it badly.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dave. I think when Rangers were in the league, I think the day that Rangers went out of the league and dropped to the bottom division, it was a bad day for Celtic, because after that, the board seemed to decide, well, when we get players in, we'll get players in not that are of the best quality that we were getting, and then get a sprinkle of, unknown gems, hopefully. But they'll try and get players in that'll just about win the league. And the level and the standard of Celtic dropped. And it was no coincidence that they kept going out of Europe. In Champions League, Absolutely. They dropped to the Europa League. Now they can't even get into the group stages of the Champions League. And God knows where this is going to tumble towards. I was looking at over the last 10 years in their transfer policy, and I'm nearly sure, I grazed over it before I came on, nearly every year they've made a profit on their transfer policies. So it says something about who they're bringing in. And I think when they used to bring in, let's go back as far as when they had John Hart's and Alan Thompson. They used to bring those type of players in, and then they'd get a gem in someone like Henrik Larsson, who maybe people hadn't heard about before, and he came up
Van Dijk, for God's sake.
And Van Dijk. Now they're going all out trying to get all their players from Central Europe or mainland Europe, and hoping that they're all gems and that they can sell them on for profits. So it seems to me that they've, as you said, rightly so, they've cheaped their way through it. And Rangers, when they came back, should never in their first couple of years even challenged Celtic. And now here they are, champions, and looking like that they could go on a bit of a run. Neil, it wasn't good preparation when you have Eddie Howe looking to come in the spring, and it drags out over 3 months. And then last minute, 3 weeks before a league is going to start, a couple of weeks before a Champions League, big Champions League game, they put Ange Postecoglou in without any players. And actually, when he's coming in, they're selling Ayer to Brentford.
Yeah, it's a culmination of a really couple of bad years for Celtic. But the planning, I mean, let's be honest, they would have known quite early they're getting rid of Lennon this year. And they probably would have even known as far back as Christmas, let's say, that, it was set in stone. So for them to go through a multitude of managers or maybes and then end up in a situation where you're bringing a guy in from abroad, it's not ideal. Even if you had been looking at someone like Eddie Howe would have had a good knowledge of the English game, Championship Division 1. He would have had a couple of lads idea to bring in with him. at the very least, Eddie Howe had a very, very good understanding of the youth system in England. If you look at what Gerrard did now, he identified one or two lads, Kent and someone like that, that was young and up and coming, hungry, that wanted to raise their profile. Now, he understands Rangers is a stepping stone, or at least that's where they think it's going to be, that Kent can move on and move upwards. Postecoglou is after coming in now, and he's had no signings. He's already kind of bemoaned the fact that there's nothing there for him to deal with. And he seems to be getting a lot of support from the old Celtic guard, agreeing that he hasn't been set up with a good hand straight out of the blocks. I was also looking at the transfers there the last couple of years. If you take Virgil van Dijk, Kieran Tierney, Dembele out of the equation, they're guys they've sold on the way out for big money. But there's nothing like even a third of that being spent on players coming in. So I think you hit the nail on the head. The worst possible thing was the fact that Celtic, literally in second gear, were steamrolling everybody in the league. They had no competition. They didn't feel the need to strengthen. And as a result now, they've probably been caught maybe 2 to 3 years quicker than anyone would have expected Rangers to do so.
Yeah. Dave, this is a shambles when you look at it from the board. Why mess around with a manager for 3 months nearly, waiting on him? Surely the signs were there. If he's not interested straight away, you're not getting this deal done within a month. There's problems. I mean, that everyone understood that. I mean, even the newspapers were coming out with problems that Eddie Howe probably and more than likely won't sign. So this not only is the transfers over the time, but even just this managerial appointment has been disaster.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've a month to go now, and there wouldn't, as Neil said, the plan and the preparation, which all clubs need to have in bringing in new recruits, is out the window, because if they seem to have put all their eggs in one basket with Eddie Howe, even though a lot of people seem to think it wasn't going to go ahead, like you said. So were they relying on him to come in nice and early and then to start getting lucky with it? And then it didn't happen. And it's like a poor man's Arsenal for me. They're like the Scottish Arsenal, the way it's going on at the moment, the way they're running it. And that's what it feels like. Now, I know a little bit of a defence for them. They have to rely on Europe a lot more and the best of what's in Scotland, because England's just got too expensive. You can't bring in a Chris Sutton caliber player in the mid-tables anymore unless you're spend 20, 25, 30 million. You just can't do it anymore. In Scotland, they're not buying players for that money. They're selling them for it, but they're not buying them. So they have to scour Europe and the best of Scotland, but they're failing and failing badly. Or as what Neil said, the youth route, and hope you get somebody in under the 10 million mark and hope you're lucky. But they're failing in that as well, because the goalkeeper, as we talked about after off air last week, he just looks awful. And then there's Craig Gordon pulling off last minute saves to keep them in the and then there was ones in the first half, and it's just rubbing it in their face as usual. So where to go, what they're going to do, and the one thing I will agree, it shouldn't be down to Postecoglou to fall on the sword.